Welcome back, everybody. My name is Darson Grantham, and this is the kind of Des Moines real estate investing kind of podcast, video cast. We just talk about real estate investing, business, growth. Again, my name is Darson Grantham. I'm an agent investor here in Des Moines, Iowa, and co-host is Jared Huseman.
Yep. So, Jared Huseman here, president of the Catalyst team, part of KB Commercial Realty. We are a multifamily specialist team and specialize in investments in multifamily apartments across the state of Iowa. We should really start, we don't have a name for this yet, we should really start actually numbering episodes. This is episode, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We need a name for the episode. We
still need a name for this episode. But yes, just as always, we're just here. We're both agents. Darson focuses on small multifamily and duplexes and investment houses. And I focus more on the apartment arena. And we just kind of give our 2 cents on general business topics, real estate, the market, whatever we can, just ultimately help you guys make more money and create value in your lives.
Yeah, I've even kind of shifted. I do the small multifamily. I've actually had a lot, more than a handful over the last couple of months of folks that they just want good deals in real estate, right? And over the last 2 years, it's been tough to get good deals. And so they're like, hey, can you help me go pick out old grandma, and we talked about this, old grandma's house, where I can do these couple changes and increase the equity, because the properties that are really well maintained and finishes are really good, like they're still selling really fast. The value is still there. It's the ones that are quirky or they need a lot of fixes, those are not. So I've had a lot of people reach out on that too. So I'm kind of expanding on both ends, the investment property and then just homeowners that they don't want to pay retail per se. They want to try to get really good deals. And we've done it in the last, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's been pretty crazy to see what we've been able to get.
So that's something that, I mean, in general speaking, this is, again, we talked actually a little bit last week after like our podcast here, but this is why you find an agent who specializes in what they do and is good at what they do and is a true professional. It's for things like that. Someone who actually can help you add value beyond the typical transaction or just buying and selling. Because most of you guys can do that yourselves out there in the world. But a good agent will be an advisor, be a resource for you, can help you figure out things like what I'm working on analyzing is, how much more rent can you get out of granite as opposed to a laminate top?
Yeah.
That's going to be, and actually quantify that, not just pick and choose a number out of a hat. And then pick and choose, how you actually can add value beyond just the typical fix and flip.
Yeah.
So we're here.
And on that, I listed my old personal residence. I had it all rehabbed. It looked fantastic. It was done. The guy that did it, I told him, I was like, you need to be rehabbing $500,000 houses. Like, this $200,000 stuff, you're literally too good for this. It's him and his 2 kids, he homeschools, and they were not super cheap, but they did an incredible job, right? And the agent that earned the business, we're closing in September, so I won't share that all yet when it closes. But she goes, I walked through a lot of rehabs, and this is one of the best ones I've ever seen. She goes, I'm absolutely going to look for the properties that you flip in the future. And I'm like, that's very flattering of you. I probably won't be flipping very many.
This is the buyer's agent?
The buyer's agent said that. And she's like, I almost don't even walk through flipped properties anymore because they're so terribly done. So that's your competition at times.
So, it's funny you say, actually, because when I used to flip houses 6-7 years ago now, we used to make a point of all of our houses, we would take them almost down to the studs. We do about 2-3 houses a year. And it was actually common for buyers, agents, and buyers to walk through and ask the question, are these flippers? And at that time, I was not an agent. And my agent used to tell them, well, yes, I was a flipper, but I didn't do things like most flippers. I didn't hide things. I would take things down to studs and rebuild up. And do it right, do it in a good way. Yeah. Wasn't trying to hide things. So
it'd be interesting. So a residential buyer dabbled with new home builds, right? I ended up not going that route, but one of the KRM is office out of Keller Williams, and he showed me that when they build a house, they take a picture of every step, right? So they basically, the insulation in the wall, they take a photo, and when you purchase the property, you get this Google Drive of all of the photos of where all the electric is, everything. What if a flipper started doing that?
Yep.
I feel like you could market and you would get people to pay more if you did that.
So it's funny you said, actually, because one of the things we did to stand out at the tail end of our things was we started actually doing time-lapse videos of the major parts of the rehab. So we actually did time-lapse videos of the kitchen and the bathroom remodels.
Yeah.
And we did them, and it actually went viral almost, because you could just watch in time lapse this bathroom go from X to Z. And it was basically what it was thousands of pictures. What the actual camera did, we had a GoPro camera set up, and every hour, it took a picture. And that's why I took a picture every hour for like a 16-hour window, and I did that for like a week or 2
That
weeks.
was like 2013,
right? Yeah, that's what it was.
Now it's actual video that can be.
Yeah, yeah, but it was again. You watch the time lapse of it all happen. But no, this goes back to, I think we mentioned it maybe one of our last podcasts as well, one of our last videos. But treat your business like a business. Like if you are a flipper, and here's the thing too. I think we mentioned this again earlier, but if you're flipping houses, you need to have everything documented, done up to code, done right, because you will get sued. Just FYI, if you are out there flipping houses, you will get sued at some point. I'm not trying to scare you. It's not a scare tactic here. I mean, there are some coaches out there and educators who will actually use this as a scare tactic to get you to buy my program or buy my classes or buy my LLC training boot camp. I'm not here to scare you. I'm just telling you cold hard facts. If you flip enough houses, you will get sued. Now, if you flip one, probably not. If you flip two, maybe not. But if you want to make flipping houses a business, or in this case, building houses a business, if you want to create a true business, you need to document everything, do it up front, because again, at some point you will probably be sued. You need to create processes for your business. And I think same goes for rentals.
Yeah.
You need to have a process for how you show a property, how you take an application, how you run the application.
Are you a good process person?
I'm pretty good at process person, actually. That's actually one of my ironic skill sets, even though I'm a very high D driver personality.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's why you've been a solo agent for so long before hiring someone.
Yeah, because I was able to build processes in my business. When I am in my downtime, I tend to build processes in my head. So I'm very process oriented when I'm not in my 8 to 5.
Interesting. You have a unique skill set.
So very different. But what I will say on this is, it goes back to, if anybody watches its old show now, Marcus Lemonis, he had the Profit. It was people, process, product. That was his thing he always talked about. He always get the right people in your business, get the right processes, and the product always comes last. But it was people and processes at the end of the day were the number 2 things to run any business. So if you're flipping houses, the right contractors and the right processes. If you are going to buy investment property, the right managers and the right processes to run that. That's what will create more success, more value add for your ownership of real estate than anything else. Yeah. Forget the housing for a second. Forget what you're buying. That's a last. Focus on the managers you're going to work with and the process you're going to do. And those 2 things alone will add more value in your investments than just finding a house.
And you make that sound so easy, but as entrepreneurs, as action takers, that is one of the hardest things is the people. And bringing someone else to do something that you, in your mind, think you could do better. And you probably can. But you can't do everything and grow. I would actually argue, one thing I've learned over the years is I actually think entrepreneurs are actually the worst people to do it better. Because here's what I've learned, about myself included, is I can do it better for about 3 months and then I get bored. Yeah.
And then I go on to the next.
Yeah. Consistently better.
And that's the thing, is that as an entrepreneur, anybody out here watching, we probably can do it better for a short period of time. But because of how our minds work, because we're naturally entrepreneurial, we're on to the next thing and we have the next idea.
In my head, I'm going through all the things that I've done really well for 3 months. And I'm like, yep.
That. And then you move on, right? Because you get bored and you want to go do the next thing. So what I found is, this is why it's so weird, but like this is why it's so important to have employees out there, guys, and have a good team, because employees, they are okay being in quote unquote, I don't say stagnant, but in routines. That's how they need routines to thrive, because that's what they need to keep structure, organization in their lives.
They are normal humans.
Yeah, they're normal. So go hire them, because yes, they might not do as good a job as you, but they'll do 80% as good as you for way longer than you ever can. Yep. And it's amazing. One thing I will say, I know you're from HR, so I'd love to bring this aspect into it here, but I know even right now in a labor shortage, it's hard to find good help, good labor. We know that. At the same point, if you're willing to pay a decent wage, a living wage, well, we know what that looks like at another point, you'd be surprised how many people will want to work for you. And if you are just a decent human being as an employer, you will get some really talented people who want to help you.
Yeah. I mean, it's yes, up until you get to where you have to hire managers that manage other people, right? Because if they're working directly with you, you can impact them. That's the kicker.
It's another skill set.
Yep.
It's a skill set.
And then hiring that manager that can act like you and treat them like you can, again,
right?
That's the next level. So
right.
Yes, there are people out there, no question. Both my employees, they left other jobs to come work with me. Like a startup real estate company, they're like, I mean, I'm nothing that special.
Yep,
I just was like, hey, this is what I can promise you. This is what we can do. This is what we're growing to.
Yep.
I think. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure.
So here's the thing though about that. Here's why I've had this own conversation with my own staff as well. And to your point, I agree with you. I also disagree with you, because the reason people are afraid is because what you just said is someone's afraid that if I'm a good manager and we start hiring other managers for, let's say, a property business or an investment business or even a flipper, I'm going to hire this person, he's going to GC and run my flips, right? They're afraid that they have to go out and manage people because no one wants to manage people. And what I always say is, and I have this conversation with my team even recently, if you have to manage someone, they're not the right person on that team anyway. Back to people, processes, product, right? If you got to manage that person, they're not the right person.
What does manage mean to you?
To me, manage means I have to dictate what you're doing. I got to dictate that you got to show up at 9, you got to close at 5, from 9 to 9:05, you are going to get coffee, from 9:05 to 9:30, you're going to do this. That is managing someone.
Adult babysitting.
That's adult babysitting. No adult wants to adult babysit someone else. For the most part, there are some, I guess I will say that, maybe there are some. But for the most part, people are afraid of management because they're afraid they actually have to be responsible for someone else. But when I always tell my team is that the right person you will not need to manage, you will just guide. You'll just say, hey, here's my idea, here's what I'm thinking. And if they're talented enough, if they're smart enough, if they're good enough, they'll figure that part out themselves.
It depends what position, right?
Yeah.
Like your low-end clerical admin, I guess you could. That's where processes come in. Because if you put processes, then you don't really manage them every day. But if something breaks, they aren't fixing it.
And here's the thing,
and that's fine, because that's not their job.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too, I'll come back to as well. And this is, again, super simple, but this is just how I run my businesses, guys, is I tell my team this, too, as well. Anybody that's, in the operations management role, right? If we don't enjoy working with someone, then let's not work with them. So if you have a general contractor managing your flip, let's just say, and there's just this plumber who is just being a bane to work with, awful to work with, then don't work with him. Working for the one job or the project, get rid of him and go find another one. There are so many good people to work with, so many true professionals out there. That's one that took me a while to learn. I learned this actually in a class years ago, but work with professional people and find professionals to work with. But if someone is not enjoyable to work with, then don't work with them.
Yeah.
Let them go. Most of our watchers here are going to be having probably small companies. By small company, I mean less than 200 employees.
Yeah.
And if you're
over 100 in real estate, you're a big freaking deal.
Yeah, right. So anyway, if you're less than 100 people in your team, there are a lot of good people who you want to work with. If this person is not bringing joy to that team or that organization, then go get someone else. I know it sounds simple,
so
but
you're making it sound like it is the boss's choice too. I would also say a boss should empower an employee to leave if they feel like they can do something else for more.
Yep, I agree.
I just am a firm believer in that I don't want to hold anyone hostage working for me. I don't want you to work for a paycheck to work for me. I would put them on the Dave Ramsey plan, get out of debt. Because if you have no debt, you're a lot less tied to your employer.
Right.
And that's huge to me. You will make better work decisions if you are not tied to that job.
I agree.
And I say work decisions, like you'll make better company decisions. You'll do better things for the company. So the boss should want you to not be tied to that job. Well, if the boss is treating you well.
And I think to that point too, I think you can empower your team on who they want to work with. Yeah. So let's say, I'm an example here as agents here. One that we have commonly is pictures and video of all of our products that we're listing for sale. And I usually hand off the management of the marketing to my office manager, who then takes care of the rest. Again, I empower her that if she has someone that's not being easy to work as a vendor, then she can fire them. Yep. Like, I might have chosen them at first, but you know what? At the end of the day, if they're not bringing our team value or joy, then let them go. Yep. So I'm empowering my team to also make the choices for themselves, because ultimately, if I'm going to force my employees that you have to work with this person or have to work with that person, then they're going to hate what they do, and they resent that I am dictating who they should and shouldn't work with. Now, I know it's a little different for anybody in the rental business. You cannot dictate who is not a tenant to that extent, or who is or isn't.
You follow the fair housing discrimination.
Yes, follow fair housing, all the things too as well.
But other than that, you can.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you still can set parameters around who you let into your properties. You have to have XYZ of rent, or income, and this kind of history, et cetera, et cetera. But anymore, what it comes down to is people, processes, product. In this case, product is the real estate. But I think if you build your business around people and processes, and it can be simple. You can just have a manager, an agent, an attorney, whatever it may be, in a process. And again, we joke about it here, but go hire someone too, because again, we all think we're good at this as entrepreneurs, and we're actually really good for a short period of time. Yeah. We're like the world's worst long-term sprinters. Like, we have this vision of 50 years down the road. Like, I have this vision of what I'm going to build, this huge company, and yet we can only sprint 3 months at a time. So it's crazy how we operate. Like, we think 20 years in the future, but we can never usually sprint more than 3 months. So this is why it's so important for entrepreneurs to go have great employees. That's
I
why
can
we need
sprint
that.
for 3 months, but I'm moving, like, after I get there, I'm going the other direction another 3 months.
Right, because
now keep sprinting, it's just not the same direction.
Right, so now you need to turn left or turn right or zigzag, right? Zigzag, move.
Yeah.
But no, again, go out and hire people. I promise you, you can do it better. I guarantee you can.
And it doesn't need to be full time.
Right.
Like, you go find the part-time person. I have one gal that does some data entry for me. She has a full-time job with one of the cities, local cities. She's like, I was gonna go get a job making $11 an hour at a library just to so I could eat out and have fun.
Stay busy, yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll pay you $15 to sit on your couch, watch Netflix, and do these 3 tasks every week. She's like, really? I said, yeah. So that was someone I hired. And it was just an introduction from someone else.
That's the thing.
Little things like that. I couldn't have done that with her if I didn't have the process set up of what I wanted her to do that I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to pay my operations and other folks to do.
I will say this is something I got explained to me once, and I don't have the exact answers in front of me, but I think this is your point. We have VA as well that I love, and we're adding more to our VAs and our vendors. VAs and vendors you can do so much with, guys. And in today's world, if you're not using VAs and vendors of some kind to grow your business,
that can be an interchangeable word.
Yes, that is. It is. I think it is 100% an interchangeable word, but I will say this, if you are going to use a VA or a vendor, you need to break down your essentially hierarchy of task.
Yeah.
And break down is that, am I looking for them to completely own and take over this one thing, this role, or am I looking for them to just do complete a task? Yep. And I would say that if you are going to outsource anything to a VA or a vendor, focus more on the task at hand that you're outsourcing, not like big projects or big things. I would not ask my VA to go out and run and create a whole new marketing campaign for me, because they don't know my business intuitively enough to, and that's just really hard for them to do. Now, if I tell them to go out and build a one-page flyer for the XYZ, I think that can make more sense.
So I think on our scale, yes, you could do that with a big marketing agency, right? You can sit down with the marketing agency for a day and say, hey, we're going to hire you to do this entire campaign.
Right.
That's typically not why someone watching this is going to hire a VA.
But what I can say from experience here, having done that, I've actually hired marketing companies to build me marketing before.
You like it?
And I can tell you honestly, with the budget I gave them and we were going to pay for them, I could have went out and hired a full-time employee staff agent to give me the same result and kept internally and had them for longer than 1 month.
You don't know.
Or 6 months, whatever it was.
We can get into that another
right. Time. I mean, again, and there's
the same quality, same outcome. It's hard to argue.
There's some debates there.
But I know what you mean. It's a big freaking dollar amount to hire those big agencies. No question.
Yes. And again, just be very, very, if you are going to hire a vendor like that, then you need to make sure that they are not a one-off. They have their own team. Yes. So I've hired some digital marketing firms in our market, but they already are established businesses where they have a staff of 10 or 20 or 30 people that are going to work to build whatever I'm working on. They are not a staff of one that I'm going to build my whole marketing campaign off from.
I hired a guy out of California, San Diego. He was going to build my SEO website. I paid him for 2 months and he disappeared. I was like, what? He won't answer any emails? Nothing. Yep. I'm like, what the heck? So I only had to pay 2 months, but I'm like, well, that was a waste. So there's your team.
If you're going to hire a one-person vendor that needs to be very task-oriented, if you're going to hire a true vendor to run everything, make sure it is a well-established team. Just because then they're going to have the processes and the people in place to give you the product that you are looking for. Mistakes I've made over the years. But at the end of the day, I mean, we kind of went for a tangent here. We're just kind of talking business, but
that's fine.
I think this all applies to business, and then it applies to your real estate.
Well, it goes back to it's real estate, but the real estate is probably not you full time right now.
Right.
It's how to get full time or is creating a business
through
real estate. And I had a meeting with some clients last Thursday, and they were trying to decide: do we start wholesaling? Do we start buying larger multifamily properties? And the answer is there's no answer to that.
Right.
It's what do you want to replace? Where are your resources and all that good stuff?
Well,
and that creates a business. So you're creating a business, whether you're wholesaling, you're buying 10 plexes, 20 plexes, whatever. Create that business, which comes this hiring of agents, hiring of admins, hiring of whatever.
No matter what you do, and here's why it is actually funny, because I had the same conversation with someone the other day. I said at the end of the day, if you want to get into real estate investing, development, flipping, wholesaling, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's still a business. If you own one house, that is still a business. You're in the business of providing real estate services.
Little mini profit center.
Which is, And at the end of the day, what's a business? Again, I come back to this, the people, process, product. Now, the problem I have with that is too many people want to put the product first. Do I need to buy a house? Do I need to rent a house? Do I need to buy a duplex? Should I go to multifamily? They're trying to put the product ahead of the people and processes they already have. And what I encourage most of my clients to do is let's look at where you already excel in your people and your processes. And maybe the people is you. Maybe you are that people. That's okay. But where do you excel as a person or as your processes, and how do we make that fit the product type you want to go into? Because that's something that I get frustrated on. Too many clients, and again, I live this and I love it in some ways, but I've got a lot of people who come to me saying they want to invest in multifamily syndicate because they read all the stories and all the people doing great with it. And honest to God, most of them should not be syndications. They should not be multifamily. They should not even be into this role. They are better off to go buy 10 houses, or better off not even be in real estate, put it in the 401ks. And so they're trying to put the product before their own people and processes. And I'm trying to always encourage them that, look, multifamily might be a great asset for you, might be a great resource, but don't put the product ahead of what you already, excel in.
So I'm doing a presentation here at 2 o'clock for a group of people that are dabbling with real estate, right? And one of the things that I'm going to talk about is that exactly, like the syndication world. And we can a whole different tangent, but people that are successful there have already owned or ran a business. They have sales skills, they know people, and they know how to read a P&L. Right? Like that's it. So they have that business. Syndication, to go from knowing nothing or even single family rentals into syndication, that's tough. Right. So anyway,
I just come back to too many people say, well, I want to own 100 houses, or I want to own 1,000 apartment units, or I want to own, the Sears Tower in Chicago kind of thing. And I'm going back to well, why? And they're like, well, I think it'd be fun to do. Well, you're putting the product again ahead of what you potentially have. So product comes last, guys. So I love what you said, you mentioned earlier when we start talking about this, investors are trying to find houses and deals right now. It's again, if you focus on the right people and processes, you don't need to find deals. They're going to be plentiful. You're going to go look at that old grandma's house and figure out how to do it.
We won't even have to look at it. We'll just see it online. We'll make an offer without even walking it.
Right, because you have the people and process figured out. The product comes last. You have figured out what you need to do.
Yeah.
Cool. So anyway, that's I think we beat that dead horse.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap this up. Didn't really talk much about the market. We'll talk about that next week.
We're in a recession.
We're questionably in a recession. I always follow the White House. They say we're not in a recession. So
and officially numbers have come out, but they can be changed once they get the final numbers. It's always initial numbers, then final numbers.
But jobs are really low. The unemployment's really low. Well, so how can you be in a recession if unemployment's so low?
I know. And here's the point. Is Iowa in a recession? No, because the economic indicators just ticked up again for us. So the Iowa economy is doing great, but nationally we're in a recession. But Iowa's prices are still maintaining, and labor is strong.
So I actually looked at that. In the single family on market, is quick to end it. The average sale price in July of 2021 was $275.
Okay.
It's $303 July of 2022.
Holy.
So 9%.
Shit. Yeah, it's like 10%.
9%. But that prices have to drop 9% from last year to get to an even market, not even market, but a no inflation
to be
appreciation,
back. Yep.
That I just can't fathom prices, average home sale price dropping that much.
I could see 5%, 35%, but I don't think 10.
Right.
So that's the thing, is that
I don't have I have an opinion on it. I try not to blurt out my opinion because I want to just watch the stats and the data and let's track
follow
it. Let's see what's happening. The other cool stat is, and this is more residential, so pardon with me.
No, you're good.
50% of on-market houses have had a price decrease.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep.
It was 20%.
Well, again, what you're looking at too is interesting because I'm just gonna make an analogy here. But if you're in an airplane and you take off from zero ground level and you fly to 30,000 feet, and you drop from 30,000 feet to 29,000 feet, you're like, oh my God, we dropped 1,000 feet.
And it could have been drastic, right?
Yeah.
It could have been
but again, and you drop that 1,000 foot drastically, and you're like, oh my God, we're gonna die. Do you realize that you went up 30,000 feet? Okay, so you can still drop a little bit, and you'll still be okay.
Yep. And
so that's kind of what you're talking about here as well. Is that even with how much we're going up, you could still drop a little bit. And if we did drop a little bit, we're still pretty high up in the air, pretty high up in the sky.
Yeah, because historical averages is appreciation of 3 to 4%. We went up 9. That's from 2021 to 2022. And if you think about it, July, you back that up 60 days. That's May is when those offers were accepted. So you probably had 6% interest rates then. That's after the huge jump.
And that would have been July of 2021 would have been 3% interest rates.
Yeah.
So even with doubling interest rates, a year later, we still saw a 9% increase in houses. So
anyway, we'll wrap that up. if you want any more of this information, whether it's on the small multifamily or the commercial, reach out to us.
Yep.
Our information will be below. You can email me, text us.
Find us on social sites. Super easy.
Comment on this YouTube channel or anything like that.
Yep.
How about you?
I mean, pretty much same. I mean, just find us, Catalyst Team, Jared Huseman, just Google me. We're pretty easy to find everywhere, all over the board, or just comment below. But again, just always happy to share some insights and ideas here. Hopefully it's helpful.
We've had a lot of positive feedback.
So, guys, because we tell it how it is. This is just our thoughts, and it's just the real life theory. But anyway, we're running out of battery here, guys, so we got to run it off and cut short, and see you next time.
See ya.